Let's welcome in Jeb Bush, former Florida governor, also current Republican presidential candidate. Governor, thanks for being with us today.
You bet. Good afternoon.
All right, it's good to have you with us. I know you have tweeted a message today, get well message, to Officer Jesse Hartnett, who was shot in Philadelphia today by a man claiming allegiance to ISIS. Here is what Philadelphia's new police commissioner, Richard Ross, had today, speaking not long ago. Let's take a listen.
Has confessed to committing this cowardly act in the name of Islam. According to him, he believed that the police defend laws that are contrary to the teachings of the Quran.
Now, Governor Bush, if you were sitting in the Oval Office today, how would you respond to this kind of attack?
Well, I think we need to reauthorize the Patriot Act to include the provisions that existed before that were part of the toolkit, the tools in the toolkit to keep us safe. Secondly, I think we need to show, as president and all public figures, they need, all of us, those that are aspiring to public office and those already there, need to show complete support for law enforcement. There's a lot of people I talk to that are police officers, deputy sheriffs, that believe that the federal government doesn't have their back anymore.
Do you believe there's a so-called war on police right now?
Well, there's a lot of rhetoric for sure, and that kind of environment makes it very difficult for police officers to do their job, and they are heroes, and they are deserving of more than just kind of passing talk. There needs to be clear support for the police. And frankly, as it relates to the war on terror and the protection of the homeland, there are 800,000 sworn law enforcement officers in this country. They should be the eyes and ears of the FBI. There needs to be much greater coordination, I think, between federal law enforcement agencies and the cops on the beat.
Well, this, too, is a case that shows us how these police officers are on the front lines of this war on terror. Now, something else I know you want to talk about today, you came out calling for the abolishment of the food stamp program in this country. Millions of people do depend on SNAP, as it's known here in this country, but there, of course, is also a lot of fraud and abuse. So how does a President Jeb Bush replace food stamps?
Yeah, it's important to note that what I proposed was to take the three big transfer payment programs, the housing assistance program, the food stamp program, and the TANF program, to combine them and shift them back to the states so that they could do what every policymaker should have the opportunity to do, which is to answer the following question. If we weren't doing it this way, how would we do it? And what we wouldn't do is spend $1 trillion a year on all sorts of programs for the poor and trap them in poverty. That's what we're doing today. And my proposal would liberate states to innovate and to come up with new approaches so that there is less fraud and abuse and more focus on making sure that people can rise out of poverty. The way you would get out of poverty, the best way is to work, is to have a quality education, and is to have intact families. Those three things are the drivers for upward mobility. And this proposal that we've laid out, I'm excited about because it will give us the chance to transform all of these programs into the 21st century. John, you know, the poverty rate dropped right after the war on poverty started. It dropped pretty significantly. But since 1970, more or less, it hasn't dropped at all. It has remained totally flat. And we've spent literally $1 trillion a year. At some point, someone has to say, this hasn't worked. Let's try something different. A quality education, a safe community, a focus on marriage being an element of success where two incomes exist to provide support for families, and making sure that the incentives exist for work rather than non-work is the way to go.
Jeb, JD here. Of course, we worked on welfare reform when I was serving in the Congress with then Speaker Newt Gingrich. We take a look at those two issues out of the gate, what happened in Philadelphia and welfare reform, or in terms of letting the states be in charge of that. Let me just get to, dare I say it, crass politics. Taking a look at what's happening in just a couple of weeks. Here we are, so close to the Iowa caucuses and then the New Hampshire primary. Polls show you lagging in Iowa, but you seem to be getting stronger in New Hampshire. You have a new TV ad out there concerning Donald Trump. Let's take a look at it and then get your reaction.
You mentioned the Bible. You've been talking about how it's your favorite book.
I wouldn't want to get into it because to me that's very personal.
An Old Testament guy or New Testament guy?
Probably equal.
Do you like Vladimir Putin's comments about you?
Sure. Well, I welcome it. I think it's great. I think that's what should be happening. I'm greatly honored by his statement. I think it's terrific.
He killed journalists that don't agree with him.
Well, I think our country does plenty of killing also, Joe.
So just a couple of things taking issue with Donald Trump in his own words. Governor, it's a tough ad. Do you think that will put you on the road to defeating Donald Trump in New Hampshire?
Look, I don't. Donald Trump's not a conservative, JD. You are one. I am one. We know it when we see it. He's not a conservative, and he's not serious. And I'm the only guy taking him on because I don't want my party hijacked. I believe in personal responsibility, limited government, individual liberty being the driver for our success of this extraordinary country. Donald Trump's views are dramatically different. I mean, he voted for Clinton. He was a Democrat for more years than being a Republican. He gave money to Democratic candidates, starting with Jimmy Carter and Walter Mondale, and moving his way up to Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. He has views that are out of the mainstream of our party. Now, is he a gifted politician? Yeah, sure. He's a great entertainer. He fills the space for sure. But someone has to confront this because we'll get destroyed in November if he's the nominee.
Well, Governor Bush, Gallup just came out with a new poll, and it shows that your favorability has fallen dramatically with a net decline of about 28 points since July of 2015. What do you think is the main reason causing this?
Hell if I know. I don't really care. I'm focused on these early states where my numbers are much better, and I'm going to earn this nomination in a way that will draw people towards our cause. And I do sense that people are taking it seriously now. Both in Iowa and New Hampshire, people make decisions really late. It's a very interesting process, and the more I get in front of people and express my conservative views and the proven record I have and the detailed plans I have, I seem to be doing better.
Jeb, you talked earlier about being a conservative. A lot of conservatives take a look at your record as governor of Florida and say it was conservative. Cutting taxes, cutting spending, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment. Even Michael Reagan said you were more conservative as the governor of Florida than his dad was as governor of California. Why do you think the base and so many prospective voters just don't see you in that fashion?
Look, I don't know. I can't explain what motivates people. I think I've been trashed by a few folks in our party, but the simple fact is I have the most conservative, reform-minded record of anybody running for president. I'm proud of it, and it's not the end-all and be-all to talk about the past, of course, but it does give people a sense that I know what I can do, that I can do this, that I can fix these things, and I've offered detailed plans of how to reform our welfare system, how to grow our economy, how to embrace the energy revolution, how to deal with the entitlement challenges, how to reform the VA, which desperately needs it, how to reform Washington in general, because we need to disrupt the order in Washington in order to move our country forward again. So that's why we have campaigns, right? I mean, this is the whole point. And each and every day I go make my case. We're making good progress, and now we're getting to the place where people are actually focusing on the race.
This is true, and as you mentioned, voters do tend to change their minds, specifically in Iowa, late in the game. But let's talk about New Hampshire a little bit more, Governor. Christie has been rising in the polls there. He's put a lot of his chips to the table, in the middle of the table, on that state. Some see him as a better alternative to Donald Trump. If you were speaking, though, to New Hampshire voters today, I know you've done a lot of town halls there, but how would you explain the main difference between yourself and Chris Christie?
Well, look, I had a record where our state went from AA to AAA bond rating. We were the first state to take on the teachers union and win with the first and second and third statewide voucher programs in the country. I eliminated social promotion in third grade, which is a really radical idea that is so essential for our success in education, to have a gate where kids that can't read don't just go on fourth grade. It creates these huge learning gaps. I looked at affirmative action in Florida and replaced it with a leadership model that allowed for more African American and Hispanic kids to go to our universities. I don't think that record is, when you compare it to New Jersey, there's no way that anybody could suggest that the Jersey record is better than that one. And so, I think that Chris Christie's a great guy, but he doesn't have the proven record that I have. Whether it's on the Second Amendment, whether it's on the questions of life, whether it's on the fiscal issues, whether it's on the reform of an education system, whether it's managing the pension system across the board, I think my record is better.
And what if we ask you that same question, ask yourself, you're talking to these voters and they're trying to choose between yourself and Marco Rubio. How do you differentiate to the voters of New Hampshire on that issue?
Again, Marco's a good man, but he doesn't have a proven record. Look, having a life experience where you've had to make tough choices, where you've had setbacks and you've learned from it, where you have been having to make tough decisions, where you've learned how to forge consensus, develop strategies, work on things in a way that makes things better for people. It's called leadership. That's the biggest difference. Is I have a proven record of leadership, and we've not had a leader in the White House for 7 long years, and we cannot afford to have Hillary Clinton be elected because she's not a leader either. We need someone with a proven leadership record to be able to fix the mess of D.C.
Jeb, in today's Wall Street Journal, Peggy Noonan writes that the Republican Party, and especially what she calls the establishment of the party, is engaged in a civil war. Do you agree with her assessment? And how do you see the GOP uniting? How can it unite following a tough primary campaign to defeat someone like Hillary Clinton?
I don't know if we're in a civil war or not, but it's a rough and tumble business, that's for sure. It always has been, JD. I mean, you know that well. This isn't beanbag, so the fact that the first flying a little bit right now is not a bad thing. I think everybody, their record should be scrutinized. I'm an open book. I gave out all my tax returns for the last 30-plus years. I've given out all my emails to contrast quite favorably to the efforts of Hillary Clinton to hide all of her emails. I believe it's the right thing to do, to lay out your record when there's differences, talk about it, do it with civility, but do it with toughness, and that's fine. I'm not sure that that's a civil war. I think the good news is whoever wins the nomination, I hope it's going to be me, and I'm working hard to make it me. There will be unity because no one wants Hillary Clinton to be elected president of the United States.
Back to the issues. Let's go to national security and ISIS. So you have recently released an ad on your plan to take on ISIS. Let's take a look at it, then we'll have you elaborate.
Serious times require serious leadership. The last 7 years under President Obama have taught us that problems do not take care of themselves in the absence of American leadership. The United States should not delay in leading a global coalition to take out ISIS with overwhelming force. We are at war with radical Islamic terrorism. We have but one choice: to defeat it.
So, Jeb, you say during those remarks you want to lead a global coalition with overwhelming force. Does that mean, Jeb Bush, American boots on the ground in the Mideast to take on ISIS?
We have boots on the ground already there. We have special operators in Syria. We have 3,500 troops in Iraq. What we need is a strategy with American leadership to forge that coalition. And I was privileged to give this speech in August before the Paris attacks and the tragedy in San Bernardino. I did it at the Reagan Library because I think that's what we need to restore as at the core of our foreign policy, which is peace through strength. A strong military with a strong commander-in-chief that respects the military could solve this problem. And today we have a leader that is feckless, that does not believe America's strength and leadership is appropriate, and he doesn't have a strategy to destroy ISIS. The strategy, quite simply, would be arm the Kurds, embed with the Iraqi military, re-engage with the Sunni leaders in Anwar province that were the partners in our efforts to create the surge that thanks to the heroic efforts of the men and women in uniform of this great country, created stability in Iraq. A no-fly zone in Syria, safe zones in Syria to deal with both the refugee challenge that the world faces, to keep people there, but also to build this army, a unified army, Sunni-led by Syrians, to be able to ultimately create stability in Syria and to destroy ISIS. The final thing I'd say, JD, that's necessary, it is outrageous that this administration has imposed additional requirements of warfighting. To me, it is outrageous because it endangers the troops. You cannot have lawyers on top of the warfighters of this extraordinary military force. You have to, of course, the military should apply the standards of warfighting that are the international norms, but we shouldn't impose additional requirements. We don't have to worry about the civil liberties of an ISIS sympathizer. We're at war, and we should treat it accordingly.
One last question for you, Governor. It has to do with a domestic issue. President Obama, of course, had a town hall last night. The issue was gun control. He seems to write laws with these executive orders on immigration, Obamacare as well, and now guns. Is this simply unconstitutional?
I believe it is. And on day one, I will repeal every executive order that I believe goes beyond his authority, including the DACA and DAPA resolutions. We need to do this through Congress. Look, the Constitution gives a clear path on how to solve these problems, and I believe they need to be solved. But as it relates to guns, better to do it at the state level, better to do it respectful of the law-abiding citizens that are not part of the problem. Better to do it kind of like how Florida did it, which is we're probably one of the top Second Amendment states. We have 1.5 million concealed weapon permit holders, more than any state by far. But we focus on
this is true, Governor. Unfortunately,
punishing people that commit crimes.
Well, Governor, as a resident of Florida, I was there when you were governor. Wonder when you're going to talk about that governorship more often on the campaign trail. But it's been great to speak with you today. A pleasure and good luck out there.
All right. Thank you.
I've got much more coming up here on Newsmax Now. JD, thanks as well for joining us.